We're off. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's December. December has arrived. December 1st, 2025, the day after the Miami Dolphins defeated the New Orleans Saints 21-17 at Hard Rock Stadium. Defeated, escaped, survived, outlasted, squeaked by, all of the above to discuss the game, what it meant, and everything moving forward. Joining me as he often does, Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Perk, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad the Dolphins are on a 3-game winning streak, and we can call it a streak. This isn't back-to-back wins. This is now a streak officially because it's 3 games. They've won 4 out of 5. They've looked shaky in the last 2, but who cares, Poop? They won them both.
And that's a big question here. Should we not care about how they win? Again, looking ahead to the possibility of a season-ending run. And I haven't, you know what? I dished out this particular tidbit on the other podcast I do, not on this one. So bad Allen. But do you know that the last team to run the table after being 4-7 was the Miami Dolphins? In 2005, they were not only 4-7, they were 3-7, won their last 6. This was Nick Saban's first year as head coach. The final 9-7 record, not good enough to make the playoffs. And then the following offseason is when they made the choice of Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees as their new starting quarterback instead of Gus Frerotte. And we all know how that played out. And there was your quick history lesson. So does it not matter how they won if the hope is that they can finish the season with a good record, maybe prolong this winning streak?
I don't think it matters because all you're trying to do is win and advance. It's kind of like the NCAA basketball tournament. The Dolphins, as you pointed out on dolphinson.si.com, that how about that? That the playoff hopes are very slim. Even if they finish 10-7, there are so many teams that they have to leap. So, Poop, I think I would care more if this was a team that you thought was headed to the playoffs and it needed to figure out a way to win that first round playoff game. Right now, I think this is really a team that's searching for an identity on both sides of the ball. I know that they've been making big plays defensively. They've been running the ball offensively. But I would not define this as a running team offensively or a big play team defensively. They're just doing what they have to do to survive and advance. So to me, this is kind of a feeling out process for the Dolphins. What can we do consistently? Can we develop young players? Does Mike McDaniel have a future? Champ Kelly, what do you do with Tua? This is all kind of exploratory to me. So just win in advance.
Okay. Another quick history lesson that has nothing to do with the Dolphins, unless I'm severely mistaken. There's a very, very good 30 for 30 documentary, which I'm pretty sure was called Survive and Advance, and it was about the 1983 North Carolina State basketball team, which won the national title. Very, very interesting stuff. But we digress. We're moving away from the Dolphins. Let's go back to the Dolphins. Yeah, and here are the numbers. And again, if you've been checking out Miami Dolphins on SI.com, you would already know this, but according to the Athletic Playoff Simulator, not to be confused with the Space Modulator from Marvin the Martian. You listen to this podcast, you're going to get all kinds of weird, that's what I'm looking for, references.
References, yeah.
Yeah, so if the Dolphins went out, according to the Playoff Simulator, the Dolphins have a 13% chance of making the playoffs. We're talking if they go 10-7, which would mean an 8-game winning streak to finish off the season. That's crazy. If they lose against Tampa Bay and they win the other 4 games, which would give them a 9-8 finish, and 9-8 teams have made the playoffs before, the Dolphins were one of those in 2022, then it would be at 7%. If the Dolphins lose against any of the other 4 teams, I think we're back to less than 1%, which is where they stand right now, at less than 1%. So again, we are going to continue with our rooting guide every weekend. We're going to continue to look at the playoff standings because, again, until they're mathematically out, it beats the alternative of, okay, the season's over, let's look ahead. But realistically, it's not happening. And I'm sorry, beating Washington 16-13 in overtime, I don't care what Washington did against Denver on Sunday night because, in part, last night they had Terry McLaurin and Darren Payne, who were easily their best offensive player when Jaden Daniels is out, and their best defensive player. Dolphins didn't face either one of those two. So defeating Washington by 3 and then hanging on against the Saints, and watch the replay of the second down throw to Chris Olave in the end zone and see how close the Dolphins came to losing that game.
Yep.
Props to them for winning the game, but there's nothing about those 2 wins that tells you, oh, they're ready to make a big run.
Correct. This is a team that, again, is in flux. I don't know the identity of this team, Poop. And when you look at how Tua has regressed, and you look at Tyreek Hill being out, and you look at the front 7 still being very inconsistent, they allow Washington 172 yards rushing. They hold New Orleans to 81 yards rushing, but there's no consistency with that run defense. This team is kind of lost. And so while you're searching for how do you want to win, can you develop this 2025 draft class, which is developing, by the way, just do whatever it takes to win games.
Say 2024 or 2025?
2025 draft class. The 2025 draft class is developing, yeah. And so, look, I will credit Mike McDaniel. I do have some questions, like Dante Collinelli wrote today about the end of the first half strategy, what Mike McDaniel said. I've still got some questions for Mike McDaniel. That was you.
That was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get my authors mixed up. But look, I do think that he made the right call on the 4th and 1, where Ollie Gordon bounces it outside. I think he did that.
We're gonna go like this, you and I.
Okay, let's do it. I thought it was a good call because, look, HN is your best running back, but Ollie Gordon is your best power back. And you had Alec Ingold in there. Your offensive line has been playing effectively recently. It was playing effectively in that game. I've seen a replay of the play, but I haven't watched the all 22 yet. So I think it was bottled up. I think Ollie had to bounce it outside, right? And I think you wrote that, and I think that's what I saw on the replay. But I like the play call. This wasn't like the Washington game where you could have kicked a field goal. This was, you're running the ball. That was the choice. Once you're going for it in that situation, it's what's the play call? Who are you targeting? I think the play call was fine. I think they gave the ball to the right person. It just happened to not work out. But having said, we'll debate this. Having said all that, I do still have some questions about Mike McDaniel, but this team is developing. It is trying to find an identity. Mike did say that after the game that this is the most physical that a Dolphins team has played in his coaching regime, which is fine, but that's kind of like being the world's smartest idiot. You're still not a physical team. You're more physical than you were, but you were on the road to physicality, so I'll give him credit for that.
Okay. And let me preface this by saying I've always hated leaving in the hands of the defense and not going for it when you have the opportunity for a kill shot. That's been my MO. But right now, the Dolphins have regressed in the short yardage running aspect of the game. And number 2, you miss as they did. You give New Orleans the ball at the 43-yard line. That was the line of scrimmage. It wound up being the 45, actually, after Gordon lost 2 yards. To me, I think it's a much smarter play. Again, this is the New Orleans offense, which came in tied for the lowest scoring offense in the NFL. So to me, the wiser play, punt the ball. Hopefully you can pin him back inside around the 10-yard line, all that. Make him drive all the way down for a touchdown instead of giving him the ball where you gave them. Again, I may be guilty of playing the results. I didn't tweet it at the time before, but I certainly was thinking it. Whereas I tweeted Washington, if they score in overtime, they got to go for 2. They had to go for 2, and they went. And I still maintain it was the right call, even though it didn't work out. The play at the end of the half, and I wrote about this, and when I tweeted it out also, I included, because the explanation, I'm sorry, I don't want to be that guy, but Mike McDaniel's explanation doesn't wash, because he was talking about, well, we had the ball at the 30-yard line with 30 seconds left. No, you had the ball at the 33 with 1:01 left.
Yeah, right.
On
You're correct.
2nd and 1, and then there was a pitch to Devon Achane, who was tackled for a 2-yard loss. And after that, the next snap was taken with 29 seconds left. And that's when Tua threw the 3rd down completion to Malik Washington. By the time he's tackled, now there's 23 seconds left, no timeouts at the 29. At that point, okay, I agree with it. But the decision was made at 1:01 when you called that pitch to Devon Achane, we're playing for a field goal. And this is the part Mike McDaniel, and again, go read it if you don't believe this is what I wrote. MiamiDolphinsInside.com. All the content is free. Tua was 6 for 13 for 78 yards. I believe it was the number. 87 yards. 6 for 13 for 87 yards at that point in the first half. If Tua is rolling in that first half, you're going to tell me Mike McDaniel makes the same decision? Oh, I think not.
No, he's going for it. Right. If Tua is rolling, he's going for it. You made some good points in that article. I thought the one thing to me that stood out was has Mike lost confidence in Tua? And right, because Mike is the gambler. He's the 4th down gambler. He's the guy who's always saying, I trust my offense. I trust my quarterback. I trust my pass game, my play calling. And he abandoned it. He totally abandoned it this time. So, this Tua thing is gaining momentum locally and nationally, that a lot of people are writing, what's going on with Tua? And this really develops into a major problem as you look ahead to 2026 and bringing Tua back. And if you bring Tua back, you probably bring Mike McDaniel back. And if Mike McDaniel comes back, there's a good chance that Champ Kelly comes back. So now you're in a situation where Chris Grier becomes the lone fall guy. And have you really made the improvements that you needed to make, or are you settling for status quo once again? Tua opens the door. His decline in play opens the door for all of this stuff that, because of the finances, are you going to bring Tua back? And if you do that, you're kind of dooming yourself to another season of mediocrity the way Tua has played this season.
No, and it's not getting better is the problem. And if we didn't know already that Mike McDaniel is always going to have Tua's back, the press conference, the weekly day after the game press conference on Monday was yet another example that, yes, he's always going to have Tua's back, because he was asked about his performance and he basically deflected to, we won the game, so basically I don't care. And then the harshest criticism was it wasn't one of his better games.
Right. Right.
No duh. I mean, and he was off the mark. And if he loses his superpower, as some of the national media will not stop saying, much to my barfness, what does he offer you? That 4th and 1, that 4th and 1 at the end of the game. Of course, I'm going to say that after Tyler Shuck also got stuff, but it would be nice, again, once in a while, if you have a quarterback. And here's the thing too, with everything the Dolphins are doing with their running game, which is very creative. Can you imagine if they could add the wrinkle of having a quarterback who could run the ball a little bit?
Right.
I mean, It's interesting. And this is where I would also disagree with you, my friend. Mm-hmm. I do think the Dolphins right now have an identity, basically, and that's run the ball, try to play with a lead. And in their 4 wins in the last 5 games, they have trailed one time. It was against Washington. They were down 13-6. They have played from ahead every single game. Atlanta, Buffalo, and New Orleans. That makes a big difference. That allows them to play that style. That's, I think, what Mike McDaniel wants to do right now. He's sticking with Daniel Brunskill as an extra offensive lineman. So it's basically the defense is playing better, coming up with takeaways. The offense, the passing game right now is very, very mediocre, but we're running the ball very well. That's the identity of this team. I just don't know where that gets you the second you fall behind, or when the weather gets bad, and if teams stop the run.
Yeah, what I want to see, Poop, is this is how they're winning games. But if it's your identity, if you fall behind by 10 in the second quarter, do you continue to run, or do you abandon the run and start panicking and passing and taking 3 and 4 and 5 down possessions and now you fall further in the hole. If you continue to run when you're down, let's just say 10 in the second quarter, then I think you're starting to develop an identity. I want to see some distressed situations for the Dolphins and test this theory of we're a running team, because I don't have faith in it at this point. I like what I'm seeing, but it's easy to do this and be committed when you're playing from ahead and it's to your advantage to run the ball. I want to see a couple of different situations and circumstances when you're on the road, when you're in cold weather, when you're behind in the second half, when you're behind by double digits. Do you continue to run the ball? Then I will give them more credit as being a run team. I think their identity is still developing right now, but I do like the way that they're going, and I tip my hat to Mike McDaniel for recognizing, hey, with Tyreek gone, with Darren Waller gone, Devon Achane is our best player. Our offensive line can run block. Let's lean into this. Nice job by Mike McDaniel. Good recognition.
No, that's true. And of course, this is where somebody might suggest, why didn't they do that before? Well, because they had Tyreek Hill and they were paying Tyreek Hill all this money, and it made sense to try to take advantage of him. But would they have been better off becoming a run-oriented team earlier? Perk gives it the thumbs up. And then we say that, and then I'm looking here at the play-by-play in the fourth quarter. The Dolphins got to a 1st and 10 from the New Orleans 11-yard line after some good running work by Achane, and then there was 3 straight passing plays called, incomplete sack, and then they settled for the field goal that made it 19-11. So, but this is where we stand. A couple of news items to pass along. Alec Ingold sustained a stinger in the game against the Saints. Returned to the game. McDaniel said he probably would be day-to-day. I don't know if it's going to impact his availability for the game against the New York Jets next Sunday. The 3 guys who remain on IR who are eligible to be designated to return are Andrew Meyer, Jason Sanders, and James Daniels. And McDaniel basically said, no, this is not the week. I'm going to be preaching patience. Gang, there's 5 games left. After this week's going to be 4 games left. We're getting close to the point where it's like, Mike, these guys are done for the year. And he kind of dropped some there's a term for it, and it escapes me right now. Some pebbles. No, what's what I'm looking for? When you drop
sprinkle, not drop hints.
Drop hints, but there's
we can settle for that.
Somebody in the comments will figure it out because we're too dense to get it ourselves. But he kind of dropped some hints that James Daniels is not coming back in 2025. I wouldn't count on Andrew Meyer either. And regardless, the offensive line's performing very well. I don't know. The pass protection, interestingly enough, wasn't as good against the Saints to me as it had been with Larry Borman in the lineup. Maybe the run blocking was maybe a little bit better, but I didn't necessarily notice a massive difference with Austin Jackson at right tackle instead of Bourne. I don't know.
No, this gets into a couple of interesting things that New Orleans, the big danger with them was the pass rush. Probably the only danger, right? With Cam Jordan and Chase Young, and who was the other defensive end?
Granderson,
right, Granderson. They came in with like 4.5 sacks, 4.5 sacks, and 4 sacks. Is that right? Something like that. And they lived up to that billing. They had 4 sacks on Tua. So they lived up to that billing. So, let's watch and see the pass protection. I don't know. I don't think the Jets have much of a pass rush, do they?
Will McDonald's not a bad player.
Will McDonald, that's what I was going to say, is probably the only one off the top of my head. But I do want to see if Alec Ingold does not play, how does that affect the run game? You remember last season when Austin Jackson and Ingold were out together, the run game took a dip. This year, Austin Jackson is out. The run game got stronger, really. I don't, they leaned into it more. It's stronger. It's gotten stronger. I don't know what are the individual elements that make up the run game success. You would like to think that Aaron Brewer and Patrick Paul are 2 of the bigger ones. I don't know what Ingold, to me, hasn't had that great of a year. So I don't really know what his absence is going to do, but I'll be watching it. Austin Jackson, last season, they called him their best run-blocking offensive lineman, so it's good to have him back. But with Ingold possibly missing the game, if he misses, I have no idea what the effect will be on the run game. I'm thinking it'll probably be minimal. I think the bigger thing was to survive the Austin Jackson absence. So, as this goes on, we'll see what they do. But these injuries, I think the Dolphins have done a really good job, especially on the offensive line. Andrew Meyer, James Daniels, Liam Eichenberg, all missing. And I thought offensive line depth was the worst. I said this coming into the season was the worst in the Mike McDaniel era. I think they've proved me wrong. These guys have come through, Borum and Cole Strange, and using Brunskill. I'm going to count him as offensive line depth. They've done very well. So congrats to the players. Congrats to Butch Berry, the offensive line coach, Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, and Mike McDaniel.
Whoa, easy with the kudos all over the place. They're 5-7. Simmer down now. Simmer down.
Look, I know they are 5-7, but look, they were 0-3, they were 1-6, they were 2-7. So there's hope. They're not going to end the season, I don't think, at this point with a winning record. But considering where they were, nice job to put some elements together.
Well, they certainly didn't give up.
Yep, correct.
What I would say, yeah, and it sets up well, because remember, we all said all along that once they beat Buffalo, we're all talking about they're going to be 6-7.
Yep.
By the way, you don't know that.
6-7.
There you go.
Right.
And again, they're a better team than the Jets. The Jets did beat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, but a lot of it was on special teams. Bijan Robinson had a big game, was 142 yards rushing, 50 more receiving, which kind of sets up really, really well for Devon Achane. At some point, his run's going to end, or maybe it won't, because right now he's got a streak of 3 straight games with more than 120 yards rushing, which no Dolphin running back had done since Ricky Williams in 2002, when he led the NFL with 1,853 yards. So that's really, really impressive. And you ask, why is the running game succeeding? Well, the run blocking's been good. Devon Achane is making tacklers miss at a much, much higher rate than he had. And then also he makes defenders look bad in the open field. I don't know if it was as the percentage of a great move by Achane in the open field, or the Saints cornerback Alante Taylor, who decided, I don't feel like tackling Achane on his touchdown. If you see the replay, he's coming across and he was basically looked like, my job is to get him to cut inside. Right. Go right ahead, Achane. I did my job.
Right.
I mean, that was if that had been a Dolphin cornerback, we'd be crucifying him right now. But he plays for the Saints. We don't care about him. But the bottom line is Achane's making a lot of stuff happen on his own to a degree that is exponentially higher than what we saw in 2024.
And, I wrote after the game, Achane deserves a contract extension. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think the James Cook contract in Buffalo is a good model. 4 years, $78 million, $30 million guaranteed. But the thing is, Poop, how running backs are undervalued. Achane is kind of undersized at 191 pounds. Is this a good person to commit to? Or do you let him go into the Christian Wilkins, Rob Hunt territory from the standpoint of this is a draftee and you don't want to spend money on him at this point, so you let him go into the final year of his contract where he bets on himself, and if he has a good year, there's a good chance you've priced yourself out of the market, because you're probably going to look at him and go, he's not worth that, because some running back needy contender might come along and say, let's pay Achane. He's the finishing piece. So do you want to commit to Achane after this season, or do you want to wait and see after year number 4?
Here's the thing, though, that we can't forget is you always have the option of the franchise tag.
You do.
And that's
do you want to do that, though? I don't even know off the top of my head what that number is.
No, correct. I was trying to look for it here right now.
I'm going to guess about 12.
I don't know. Projected, but that would be for 2027.
That would be for 2027. Correct.
2026. There we go. Hold on. for 2026 running backs would be, of course, it wouldn't be included. Okay, let's go at different numbers. 2026 projected franchise that is courtesy over the cap. Running backs franchise tag would be 14 million.
Yeah, okay. That's
yeah, if we're looking right now, I mean, he guy's been your team MVP. He was the focal point of the offense in 2024 as well.
mm-hmm.
The only thing with HN is I get, for lack of a better term, queasy thinking about long-term future because he's not a big dude. He's built very solidly, but he's not a big dude.
Right.
And he is carrying a pretty heavy workload. Is he going to break down at some point? And then the flip side is, how could you possibly think of a future without him, considering how good he's been? So,
and considering how low-key Jalen Waddle has been and how low-key Tua has been, Achane is like, from the skill position standpoint on offense, he is like the shining star here. And not that Waddle has been bad. Waddle has just been Waddle. He's kind of, nobody expects him to be Tyreek. He's been good, but he hasn't been Pro Bowl good.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No,
and he's kind of on the cusp of Pro Bowl, I think. But with the Dolphins, with their record and him not really having any signature play or game.
Oh, no, he's not making the Pro Bowl this year.
Right. He's not. I mean, I think you could make the argument he's on the cusp, but with what he's done since, the Saints game is a big detriment, though. That's a big detriment. But what he's done since Tyreek has been out has been admirable. But it hasn't been like, ooh, that extension, we underpaid him. It hasn't been like that.
No, correct. Well, to me right now, HN got to make the Pro Bowl. I think Jordan Brooks got a very good chance to make the Pro Bowl. Jake Bailey, although the dude in Baltimore is having a really good year as well.
That's about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else really.
I don't think Minka is going to make it. I don't think Patrick Paul is going to make it. Aaron Brewer. That might be it for the candidates, right? Yeah, because Chubb is not a candidate. Minka, did I say Minka? I don't think Minka's not gonna make it unless he really does some special stuff in these last 5. I haven't even checked the other, and I'm saying this, and I haven't checked, the other AFC players. I don't know if Derwin James is a shoe-in the AFC at safety at this point. That's usually a name you look at. But Hufanga in Denver.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if Minka's going to make it, but
Well, this is where also the team success. The Dolphins are 11th in the AFC, so they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt with many players. So, speaking of Minka, I did want to address this before we get out of here. And this was brought up actually with somebody on social media. I wrote about this on MiamiDolphinsOnTheSide.com. It was striking to me that yesterday Minka completely kicked ass with the 2-point return. Oh, by the way, I got to share this also. Which again, if you read MiamiDolphinsOnTheSide.com, you would have seen this. This was a nugget that's so random, but I thought it's completely awesome, and maybe it's just me, but I will share it here. This, I don't know if you're aware of this. This was the second 2-point defensive or conversion the Dolphins have ever had. The first one was Walt Aikens in 2016. Yep. It was a blocked field goal, blocked extra point against the Arizona Cardinals. Do you know the long snapper on that play?
Ooh.
Aaron Brewer.
Is that right?
Do you know who blocked the kick?
No.
Jordan Phillips.
Wow.
How is that?
Wow.
How crazy is that? Incredible. And by the way, the namesakes, not the same players, because the Cardinals had a longtime snapper named Aaron Brewer, and the Jordan Phillips, of course, was the Dolphins' second-round pick from 2015. So I look back at that game when I saw that, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Wow, incredible. Now, was that the game at Hard Rock where Bruce Arians wondered why it only rained when they had the ball? Was that a game? Because I love Bruce Arians, but that is like the most bizarre post-game comment I've ever heard. It was funny how it only rained when we had the ball. It's like, Bruce, you got to complain to God about that. Like, the Dolphins do not control the rain. It was just a bizarre comment. I love Bruce Arians. That might have been that game. I can't remember. It may have been
that game. It was the game where Calais Campbell stumbled into Ryan Tannehill's knee and tore his ACL.
Okay.
The Dolphins won on a walk-off field goal with Matt Moore quarterback, 26-23, clinched a playoff spot the following week when they beat Buffalo, and then somebody else lost. No, sorry, 2 weeks after that because they beat the Jets after that. But going back to Minkah, on the day where he completely kicks ass with the return and his first career sack, 118 games, first career sack.
Yeah.
In the meantime, in Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers, after the game, is throwing Jonnu Smith under the bus, talking about he ran the wrong route. He's a professional. I'm sure he's like really mad about it. And
that was the with all due respect, he's a professional, but he messed up.
Pretty much. Jonnu Smith, did you see his numbers? I mean, wow.
Yeah, I know.
On the season, 30 catches, 190 yards. That's barely 6 yards a reception.
Yep.
His season high for receiving yards in a game. You ready for this? Season high for receiving yards in a game with the Steelers, 28.
Wow, man.
This is a guy who last year, like 884 yards, had his career year, wanted the new contract. Dolphins were like, no. And we kind of, I think you and I both said it at the time. He's a good, solid tight end, but he was a product of how the Dolphins used him last year, more so than this was a reflection of his ability. And then Jalen Ramsey yesterday, 15 tackles for the Steelers. Whoa, that's pretty good. 8 of them after gains of 15 yards or more.
Yeah.
So, yes, the Dolphins got the better of that trade.
By the way, I saw that article also. And when we look at, when we look at Chris Grier, should he get a little more credit? I'm not saying the guy should still have a job, but should he get a little more credit? Riley Patterson working out, Jack Jones and Rasul Douglas working out, that trade from Minkah working out, offensive line working out. I'm just saying.
No, without question. And while, yes, as people on Twitter kept telling me, Mike McDaniel was the one who really wanted Devon Achane, Chris Grier still was the GM who made the call. So if you're going to bitch and moan about some of the bad calls that Chris Grier made, some of the bad picks the Dolphins had, they were not all his. So you got to give him credit as well. So.
Yep. Yeah. And then using that same principle, I put a ding on Chris Grier's record because of the Tua extension, even though Mike McDaniel was the one who banged the table for it. But the buck stops with Chris Grier, so give him blame, give him credit. Yeah.
It works both ways. Yeah, you can't just all bad, Chris all bad.
Right.
And and when it's good, Mike McDaniel all good. So everybody has a hand in the fact that the Dolphins are 5-7. 3-game winning streak is really nice right now. But the fact that it came after a 2-7 record after 9 games, again, that's just flat out not good enough. So we shall see. One last quick thing before I go, just for those aware, because I know there are a lot of Dolphin fans who are intrigued about this Monday night game with the flex scheduling. Per NFL regulations, the decision to move a Monday night game has to be made no later than 12 days before the game, which would be Wednesday for the Week 15 game against the Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. I still think there's less than a 1% chance that they would flex out the Steelers, to be quite honest. So, but just that'll become official on Wednesday. So, programming note, we will be back here tomorrow. Dolphins Collective is tomorrow night, 6 p.m., a different time. Perk Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk tomorrow at noon.
Me and Dave Hyde tomorrow at noon.
Excellent. Everybody check it out. Check out his fine work at sunsentinel.com. Check out the written content at MiamiDolphinsNSI.com, all for free. That's going to wrap it up. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your Monday.